right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rachaha Kodash. The born is to head apostles, and that is a great millstone who will well and teach well. Peace and blessings to you, sincere Akim, that are pushing this truth all over the four corners of the earth, week in and week out, in all truth and sincerity. This is the brother Mattathiah from the GMS Virginia camp, coming to you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh being the true and holy, powerful name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai being the true, holy, and powerful name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus and Christ. Bahashim is in the name, and Lord willing, this will be an edifying lesson. This is going to be somewhat of a response to Anton Daniels' channel entitled, well, his video entitled, quote, "Y'all women aren't worth it." End quote. Quote, "Black man says it's too hard getting angry ladies to be submissive." Black man says it's too hard getting angry ladies to be submissive. I'm going to play the beginning portion of this video, then we're going to pull some scriptures. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
How many PlayStations have you bought?
I done bought a lot of them, and Xboxes, and GameCubes, and Wii's, all types of
Because you mentioned that with a passion.
Man, look, it's something that we all done went through. We all just don't speak on it.
Speak on
We
it.
all done dated women with kids, and we all done got the short end of the stick. It's just we all deal with it in different ways. Some of us speak out on it, some of us don't. They always get the bigger end of the
That's
stick.
because you said talk. Let him talk.
Talking out of hurt.
Go ahead.
It's just me.
Go ahead.
Talking out of hurt. You see that these men
That's
ain't
just what
disagreeing.
I think.
Then why don't one man disagree with it?
Because you're the only person talking, really.
Do
to be
any
honest.
man disagree with what I have said so far? Speak now. If you do, it's fine.
Hey, don't put me in this.
No, I'm for real. I said any man.
I'm staying out the way.
Hey, I'm staying out of this one.
Who is this young Padawan that is over here kicking knowledge, spitting game, and schooling these people that's on this panel? But that's not even the real issue that we're looking at here. You know what the biggest issue is? Let me rewind it for y'all so that y'all can see it for yourself.
Any man disagree with what I have said so far? Speak now. If you do, it's fine.
Hey, don't put me in this.
No, I'm for real. I said any
Hey,
man.
I'm staying out the way.
That is the problem right there. That is the problem, is because people saying the right thing and being politically correct. And then ultimately, basically, most of us got boxed of life, think for box, not realizing that box come with it. And it really don't matter. The more masculine you are, the more you're going to get boxed anyway. But
So you heard what this individual said, concerning these quote unquote, or quote unquote angry women. And when this individual right here, when he says angry woman, who do you think he's referring to? Okay. He's referring to these wildebeests. All right. He's referring to these wildebeests right here. He's referring to the so-called black woman. Okay. The most angry woman on the earth is the so-called black woman. And basically what this individual was going into, as you go more into the video, he's speaking about the so-called black woman with kids, and the so-called black man getting that short end of the stick, dealing with the so-called black woman with her multiple children, which I don't advise any brother to deal with any woman that has kids, especially the so-called black woman. Let's run that back.
All done went through. We all just don't speak on it.
Speak on
We
it.
all done dated women with kids, and we all done. The bigger end
Some
of
of
the
the
stick.
things that you said,
These men
that's
ain't
just what
disagreeing.
I think.
Yeah, and see, okay. When really the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American man is the prize. You ain't the prize. Esau has turned everything upside down. And he has put the woman over the man. The scriptures speak about that. Scriptures say the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. This is a new thing. A woman shall compass a man. And that has been accomplished. And really, All these women are against the order that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua has established, especially the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American woman. Okay? And the so-called black woman is just completely through. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 11 chapter. And let's start in verse 1. It says, "Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you." And not just the Israelite woman, but the Israelite man, or I should say the Israelite men, a large majority of them are against the orders, against the ordinances of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, which you just heard in this video, which we're going to, keep playing this video momentarily. It says, verse 3, "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Yahweh Shai Mashiach, and the head of the woman is the man." See, these women are against the ordinances of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They're not comfortable, they're not cool, especially the so-called black woman is not comfortable and cool with the man being the head of the household, the man ruling over her. It says, "And the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Yahweh Shai Mashiach is Yahweh." Okay? Now, let's skip down a little bit, and then we're going to jump back into this video. Let's go down to verse 8. It says, "For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man." And you got a lot of simps that push that so-called black woman is God doctrine. Okay? And because she's able to bear children, she's got to be God. Okay? Which is just complete madness, man. And it's just simping at its finest. Like you had these individuals right here. As a matter of fact, let's play the video again. It's like you.
Man disagree with.
Because you're the only person talking, really,
Do
to be
any
honest.
man,
Hey, don't put me in it.
no, I'm for real. I said any man.
I'm staying out the way.
Hey, I'm staying
Yeah,
out.
Tom Daniel said, they just trying to simp and say what's politically correct so they could hopefully get some box. All right, because I perceive this to be some type of dating episode show or whatever. Right? Let's read that again. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 8 says, "For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man." Okay, so the woman is of the man, not the other way around. Verse 9, "Neither was the man created for the woman. We weren't created for you." Okay, but the woman for the man. The woman was created for us. Okay, the woman was created for the man. And everything has been rearranged in the day and age that we live in by the powers that be for the particular purpose, for their agenda, to change the course and the order of things. And Esau Edom is completely against Yahweh Bashim Yahushua and his ordinances. And the so-called black woman follows right behind Esau Edom. And she's submissive when it comes to the so-called white man. Okay? When it comes to Esau, oh yeah, she's submissive. She's on work on time. She's taking orders. She's in dress code. Okay? She's crossing her I's and dotting her T's when it comes to Esau. Right? Let's continue on in this video.
Who is this young Padawan that is over here kicking knowledge, spitting game, and schooling these people that's on this panel? But that's not even the real issue that we're looking at here. You know what the biggest issue is? Let me rewind it for y'all so that y'all can see it for yourself.
Any man disagree with what I have said so far, speak now. If you do, it's fine.
Hey, don't put me in it.
No, I'm for real. I said any man.
I'm staying out the way.
Hey,
That is the problem right there. That is the problem, is because people are so concerned with saying the right thing and being politically correct. And then ultimately, basically, most of us got boxelitis, meaning that they'll do anything for box, not realizing that the box come with it. And it really don't matter. The more masculine you are, the more you're going to get boxed anyway. But The real problem is the simp force, is that guys are so afraid to actually tell the truth. And they left that guy on an island by himself. And I'm always going to link back to the content creator, so the link will be in the description. But they left this guy on the island by himself, even though he's spitting facts 100 times. I tell guys on a regular basis, and you know my stick. I would never tell anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And so I'm never going to advocate for guys to get in.
Yeah, because we get on the woman a lot, but hey, you Jake men, hey, y'all are part of the problem as well. Okay, you have heavily influenced, the way these women think, how they operate. Okay, the liberties that they've been given by the powers that be, you have contributed to that as well. Okay, now I want to skip up in this video. Bear with me one moment. All right, here we go.
Because I want to get to the rest of this, and I want to see the rest of this before I comment. These guys is always leaving dudes out on the island so that they can step out.
I'm staying out of this
Staying
one.
out the way. I'm staying out the way on that. So yeah, some of it is legit.
If I'm honest,
I'm ready for this.
I'm with him, but I'm not with him. Let me tell you why I'm with him. Some of the things that he's saying makes sense, but I think that when you get with the right woman, you guys communicate, then everything can go the way he's saying.
Love it.
So like I think he's referring to a submissive woman. And I think that you have to communicate with the woman on a certain level to find out if she is submissive, and then he'll get everything he's talking about. But
You're never going to find out whether a woman is submissive by communication. That's not how the game go.
not dealing with submissive women. He's just dealing with, I don't know, because I wasn't.
Majority of black women are not submissive, okay, at all. And that's just straight facts. There's a reason that the so-called black woman is the least desired amongst all the nationalities of women on the planet Earth, okay? And you can fact check me, all right? You're the least desired. No one wants you. Not even these other nations want you, man, okay? The so-called black man is, starting to come to his senses. He's not dealing with the Judite woman. He's seeking, to go to other regions of the earth, to deal with the other nations, hey, to deal with the so-called white woman, right? Jake's getting his passport. Jake's traveling, going to these various different areas of Philippines, this and that, etc. Seeking love, and he's finding it. He's finding submissive woman. He's finding feminine woman. Okay. He's finding women that are not loud and stubborn, that truly like and love them for who they actually are. Okay. When Jake goes to these other regions and all these lands, certain of them, he's heavily desired and liked. Okay. And it's treated like someone special. Okay. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 7, verse 11. And it reads, she is loud and stubborn. See, her, this is a result or a product of, our woman not being submissive, especially the so-called black woman. Okay. The loudness and the stubbornness. It says she is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. That's another reason she doesn't want to be submissive to you, because she wants to do extracurricular activities. She wants to be able to go out with her girlfriends, and she really seeks, the approval of her friends around her, as you see in the video clip on the side. Okay, if her friends say, "Girl, you right," a girl, you should do this and do that, even concerning a relationship and what men actually want and how they think. They'll just disregard, what a man wants off the strength of, the approval of her female friends. Okay. It says she is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now is she without, now in the streets, now, or Slaki, and lieth in wait at every corner. And the so-called black woman is very, very loud and very stubborn. The most stubborn and loud nation of woman. Okay. or I should say, you know, tribe of woman on the earth. Okay, and like I said, we get on a woman a lot, but you men, just like you heard in the video, you men have a hand in this, man. Okay, you got a lot of men who just say anything and will do anything just to get boxed, just to get in a relationship, just to have someone around them. All right, let's not forget, you men have gone down on one knee and you know raised up these women up over you. Okay, and now we're seeing over the years, we're seeing the product of that, the results of that. Okay, and it all goes into feminism, which feminism leads into what? Leads into Moism.
I'm dealing with women that's manipulative. Like women nowadays, they only want to be submissive when it fits them. Going on trips, and when I'm paying the rent, whenever they car break down, getting fixed, and whenever everything else is going good. When I take them go to the club, problem. You submissive whenever you want to be. Whenever I tell you to do something you don't want to do, now you're no longer submissive.
Yeah, and and I would say, the majority of so-called black women, even when they're, putting on, that so-called submissive, which this individual speaking about, that submissivity when they want to be, that's just a put on to get what they want. That's just a put on to get you, to catch you. Okay. Hey, Jay can put on very, very well. All right, but the inner workings is very, very different. Okay. To be submissive, you got to be submissive all the time. This is not something you just do whenever you feel like it or whenever you want, or you switch on and off. Let's go to Sirach 22, and let's go down to verse 5. It says, "She that is bold dishonoreth both her father and her husband, but they both shall despise her." And this is what is promoted in society upon our woman, especially the so-called black one, is to be bold, to be loud, okay, to do your thing, to go your way. You don't need no man. All right, you can do all these various different things by yourself because of what the powers that be have orchestrated, facilitated, and set up for you. Okay, the only way you women are able to say that you're strong, independent, you can stand behind feminism is because of what men have laid out for you. Okay, without men laying that out for you, you wouldn't be able to stand on these pretenses, nor would you even try to seek after them. Okay, and we know this all goes back to the curses as well. It says, "She that is bold dishonoreth both her father and her husband, but they both shall despise her." So men are now rejecting the so-called black woman. They're like, you know what? I'm staying away from these wildebeests, man. And we tell you so-called Negro, Latino, Native American men to stay away from the so-called black woman. And we're not saying every single Judite woman, fits this description and does these particular things, but the majority do so. Let's go to Sirach, the 12th chapter, and see, the so-called black woman, like I stated earlier in the video, she's submissive to Esau. She's submissive to the so-called white man. Okay. She's submissive to her enemy. And ultimately, Esau is using our women against us on a very, very high level. This is Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness." So our women have trusted in the enemy. Verse 11, "Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away." It's the same serpent from the garden. Once again, whispering little sweet nothings into Eve's ear. You can be this, you can be that, you could be great. Hey, look at the power that I have. I got you. I got your back. Okay. To the point to where now women can come out and say, "I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need no man. I can do this, I can do that. I can even raise kids on my own. I can get various different aids, SNAP, food stamps, WIC, okay, grants, all these various different things. A decent job, right? Off the strength of what Esau has set up for them. Verse 12, set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Never let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. So they didn't think the latter end of things. Okay. Now we're starting to see that, guess what? Esau's stepping back from these things that he's laid out for these women. Now they're retracting their different benefit programs to you women. Now you got to work a certain amount of hours each week to receive food stamps. Now you can't just sit at home and receive all these benefits just because you have some kids and no man in the household. All right. Which I may do a video on that. As today as well. Okay. Because now the government, off the strength of what Donald Trump is pushing, a lot of these benefits programs, which the majority of these benefits and these programs, it's just majority of women, and this whole system in society is set up for women, especially these benefit programs and these aid programs. All right, it's 90% women that are on these various different programs, and the majority of those women are women that have kids. Okay. Let's see. Let's go over to Sirach, the 26th chapter. And let's go down to verse 8. Matter of fact, let's start in verse 10. It says, if thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. And this is what we see happening on a major, large scale, especially over here in Babylon the Great. These women have been given overmuch liberty, and they are abusing themselves with the liberty that they've been given. Okay. And they have no shame. The scriptures say that a shameless woman shall be counted as a dog, roughly paraphrasing. They have no shame in their multiple kids with multiple different men. They have no shame in their whoredom, right? Matter of fact, let's jump up to verse 8. It says, a drunken woman and a gatherer abroad, and a majority of our women, especially the so-called black woman, okay, are gathered abroad. All right. It says, and a gatherer abroad causeth great anger, and she would not cover her own shame. She doesn't cover her shame. Look at these women, man. All right. They're telling you, man, you're supposed to be comfortable with me and my multiple baby daddies, my multiple kids. You're supposed to be comfortable with me dressing provocatively. You're supposed to be comfortable with me being angry and non-submissive. It says, the whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and her eyelids. Yeah, you can just look at a woman and know that, hey, man, you know what time she's on. Right? It says, if thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. And like I said, you men are to blame for this as well. Because you have men that support feminism. You have men that support these different things, these ideologies that these women base their life upon. Okay, that you're supposed to set the woman up. You're supposed to put that woman first. And they'll call themselves believers in the Bible, and they'll promote feminism and all these various different things that are not just detrimental to the man, but detrimental to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you Israelites. Okay, it says, verse 11, watch over an impudent eye, and marvel not if she trespass against thee. She will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler, and when he hath found a fountain, let me read that again, verse Sirach 26 and 12. She will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he hath found a fountain, and drink of every water near her. By every hedge will she sit down, and open her quiver against every arrow. Okay, so this platform that Esau has set up for these women are constantly, all right, on the hunt, on the search. Even when they have a man, they think that, okay, there's something better out there. I can level up. All right. There's always a better man that they can get with. And that's something that is heavily pushed over here in Babylon the Great. Okay. It says, verse 13, the grace of a wife delighteth her husband, and her discretion will fatten his bones. A silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord. You can just look at these women and tell that they ain't silent. Okay. You see the title, y'all woman ain't worth it. And they ain't. Black man says it's too hard getting angry ladies to be submissive. And when that's the problem right there, you're trying to get an angry lady to be submissive. Leave them angry so-called black women right where they at. Okay? They ain't gonna be submissive, nor do they want to be submissive. It says, verse 14, a silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord, and there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. Okay? They don't want to be instructed. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be, they don't want to hear from the man that they actually like and actually want to be with, okay, what he likes and how he wants them to act and how he wants them to be, okay? I wasn't raised like that. My mama told me this. Now, I can't do that, from various different things that are in society, how, the outlooks of from their peers, the women that are around them, how they're going to look at them. There's a lot of variable factors in this, okay? It says, a silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord, and there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. Verse 15, a shamefaced and faithful woman is a double grace, and her continent mind cannot be valued. You women are not the prize. The man, the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American man is the prize. Okay? And you women, Esau has really done a heavy work on our women. Okay? Especially the so-called black woman. Let's go to the book of Genesis. Because Esau, which, the Heavenly Father Yahweh set up Esau to do this, he has heavily influenced our women, okay, to believe in a lie. To believe that, hey, keep believing in this because there's light at the end of this tunnel, when there's not. And here it is, you burn bridges. You've said things that you can't take back. You've done things that you can't take back. And now we're headed into a very, very harsh time. Okay, we're headed into a time where you will need a man. Moreover, you will need a Israelite man that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is dealing with. Okay, and all those things that you have stood so boldly upon, guess what? That's about to be yanked right from under your feet. This is Genesis 3:16. It says, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow, and in thy conception in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband. See, your desire is supposed to be to your husband, to your man. It says, and he shall rule over thee. And the desires of our woman have, gone in a complete 180 direction. Their desires to these things in this life, the affairs of this world, getting the best degree and the best career that they possibly can get, and finding a man, okay, and having children, by that one man, okay, because really you only have you only have one husband, okay. When you lose your virginity, that man you lost your virginity with, he's your husband for life, like the scripture says. you are bound. The woman is bound by the law. Let's get that real quick. The woman is bound by the law, okay, to her husband as long as he liveth. Let's get that real quick. That's why Yahweh Shah said this is an adulterous and sinful nation. All right, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. This is 1 Corinthians 7, and let's go down to verse, I believe it's in 39. All right, here we go. This is 1 Corinthians 7, verse 39. It says, the wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will only in the Lord. Okay, so there you have it, man. You're bound by the law to your husband as long as he liveth. Only time you have liberty is when your husband passes away. Okay, but see, Esau Edom has switched things around, like we read in what verse was that? Slakia. Yeah, like we read in the book of. No, it's not Sirach. Bear with me one moment. Let me go through. Yeah, like we read in Sirach 26. Let me read it again. Sirach 26 and verse 10. It says, if that daughter be shameless, keep her in straight, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. Okay. So these women have been given overmuch liberty. So now they can, deal with this man, deal with that man, sleep around, have a bunch of kids, have a bunch of baby daddies, and still look like a good, upstanding person in society. Right. They still will not be frowned upon in society when that's supposed to be heavily looked down upon. Moreover, the women of our nation are supposed to be teaching our women otherwise. Okay. They're supposed to be raising the woman otherwise, but they're not doing that. Okay. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 7:39. It says the wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, but if her husband be dead, she is at liberty. Okay. She's at liberty to do what? To go find another husband because her former husband, passed away. All right. Is no longer on this earth. It says she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. All right. So there you have it. Now let's close that on one more precept. Let's go to the book of Titus chapter 2. And like I said earlier, none of you men should be seeking to get, with a woman with multiple children. You'll never come first. All right. A woman that has kids, you're never going to come first in her life. All right. She's always going to put those children before you. And if that man or the men that she has had those kids with is still, on this earth, you best believe he's going to have an avenue and access to her on some type of level as well because of those children. All right. 9 times out of 10. So let's go to Titus chapter 2. And let's go down to verse 3. It says, the aged woman likewise, matter of fact, let's start from 1. It says, it's Titus 2:1, but speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, and patience. Verse 3, the aged woman likewise, that they be in the behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. And these aged women, they're not teachers of good things. They're not raising up these young women in the way that they're supposed to be. All right. In the ways of, according to these scriptures. Okay. So, we're seeing the product and results of, you know, women instructing, you know, the children, okay, the men and the women, because essentially, you know, the majority of the Israelite men, young men and young women are being raised by these single mothers. Okay. It says, verse 4, that they may teach the young woman to be sober, to love their husbands. This is not being taught. These women are not being taught to love their husbands. Okay. It says to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home. This is not what's being pushed amongst the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American woman. It says to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of Yahweh be not blasphemed. Now let's read verse 5 in NLT. It says to live wisely, to be pure. These women are not living wisely, especially the so-called black woman. To work in their homes. The so-called black woman ain't trying to do no work in her homes, even if she lived by herself. The homes, the houses are just, you know, trash everywhere. It's dirty. Okay. She just lets the kids run the household. To work on their homes, to do good, and to be submissive. There's that word submissive again. To be submissive to their husbands. And our women, especially the so-called black women, are completely against submissive. It's completely against being submissive, okay, to the Israelite man. All right. It says to be submissive to their husbands, then they will not bring shame on the word of Yahweh. Okay, so there you have it, man. Lord willing, that was edifying. To the next time, shalom.